order. Are we ready to go with the comment? Okay. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. If we have any observers want to make comments electronically or no? Okay. Next is the approval of the minutes of the regular and closed meetings of September 8th, 2021. We'll start with the regular meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 8th?
So motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nobody opposed. That passes 6-0. Next, the approval of the closed meetings for September 8th, 2021. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes 6-0. Director's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The first thing on my report is an update about the roofing project. The roofing project is progressing. I wish we had more, the roof done, but we had some bad weather along the way last month and early this month, and some a slight delay with some materials. But I've been assured by Combined Roofing that they're going to double up on their step crews and make sure that we finish this project on schedule. So this last week and this week there was more progress with the first the single-story original building roof being torn off, and so they're making progress. But we'll continue to watch for good weather and hope for good weather.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
When we chose them, didn't they say they had all the materials on hand? Isn't that why we
They
chose them?
procured the materials, but they were waiting to get them. Like they had them, but then they said that basically they had to wait for them to get to the library or something. I'm not sure I understand the whole picture, but I've spoken with them and made sure that they understand, that it's important for us to finish the project on time, and assured that they don't have any concerns. So I'm not talking about a long delay here either. It was just a little bit of a delay. So the fall tax collections, good news. We received quite a bit of our property tax collections early this month and late last month, and we're up to about 97% of our projected 2020 tax levy. Usually we get some trickling in after, probably throughout the rest of the month we'll get a little bit more, and hopefully that number will get closer to the full amount. So that's good news. So last year, if you recall, we participated in the planning and supported the first Skokie Community Foundation Healthcare Symposium. Obviously, the topic was COVID back then, and again this year we're working with Gene, and he's leading the planning group, and Mariah Cheram, our new adult program coordinator, is also helping as well. And we've got a good program lined up. I don't know, Gene, if you wanted to share anything else about it. But
Yeah, I mean, it involves about 10 different organizations, and it'll be 2 hours that evening, including somebody from the Department of Public Health and Village Health and Healthcare panel and Public Service panel. And the library is doing all the heavy lifting. They're managing all the technology, the sign up. They'll run it. It's all virtual. If you know anybody you think might be interested, please encourage them to sign up. It's free. And what we're trying, in addition, this year is we are offering, we lined up 5 interpreters who can do simultaneous interpretation, like you're at the UN, in Assyrian, Arabic, Spanish, Russian, and Urdu. They're available, plus other people can make requests. We can look and see, but people need to sign up for it. So far, there's somebody signed up for Assyrian, but not the other languages yet, in which case we wouldn't have the people do it for no reason. But they're there, it's available. We talk about our diversity So this is a chance to reach out to the community, and these are the languages where the library and health department felt like those were the groups, the requests they get most in terms of other language services. So we're really trying to reach them. So it's next Tuesday for 2 hours. Just go online in the library, you sign up, and let us know which one you want, and it's all there, and it should be good.
Excuse me, that was a question that I had when I was reading through it, that it was so wonderful that those interpreters were there, but the information about having interpreters is in English. So I wonder
Yes,
if,
yes.
you know, how
Agreed.
do we make sure that people understand that they're available? That was my, you know, so I
Yeah,
was
no, right
struggling.
now, last year was all just in English, so this year we're telling people who speak English that it's available. If you know somebody, please
Mhm.
let them know who might benefit from that.
Yeah,
But you're right,
that's-
it's only posted in English. Right?
I think that the hope is that as we continue to promote this event, people who see and understand the promotional materials will connect it to other members of their network or community who may need the interpretation services.
Couldn't we intersperse, it's a lot like the signs that you're doing now that
Mhm.
use the language, couldn't we intersperse a sentence, you know, in those languages, each of those languages? It says we have an interpreter.
Absolutely.
So it would draw the attention even of people who don't need it, but they see it's, you know.
Absolutely. I think we can try to do that. We can work on that this week. We'll see what we can do.
Right, no, I don't, in a little bit of time left, I'm not sure, but I know
Yeah.
later you talked about how we're gonna have welcome signs in multiple languages.
Right.
Maybe next year we can line that up, because this is an annual symposium, so we're growing it. So next year, maybe we can figure out ways to,
Your point is well taken. I mean,
It's
it's
very-
not just for this program, but this is something that we need to be thinking about for our programming in general, our services in general. The challenge, of course, in Skokie is just always trying to figure out with the diversity, it's not a matter of like, you know, having a Spanish interpreter, you know, it's like, how do we accommodate all the different primary languages spoken in Skokie? But that's not an excuse, so we can definitely work on it.
and we've reached out to the ELL groups and all the schools, and so we're trying to
Right.
encourage anyone to spread the word.
Well, and even if it's on the website, since we have translation on
We do.
the website, they can see it in whatever language they would need it translated in.
Mhm. Yeah, there's an
Or even
option.
having scrolling banners,
Yeah.
you know, that are in a different, you know, so that it doesn't take up the space that we need for the other, you know, because
There's a
it's
lot of
also a
content out
space
there.
issue,
Yeah, there's a lot
you
of
know.
messaging and content physically in the building, but also on our website. And it's a lot of competing, you know, messages that we need to try to accommodate. Yeah. I want to share the next item here is the village. It's exciting. The village recognized us as with the annual Public Health Partners and Excellence Award. And actually, I'm going to ask Laura to share about the evening because she was instrumental and played the key role in coordinating our efforts earlier this year with our COVID hotline. And we're doing that again, actually, this year right now. And so I thought it was fitting for Laura to go to the village board meeting and accept the award on our behalf. So Laura, do you want to just share a little bit?
Sure, yeah, it was actually really nice. They said very nice things about the library. There were some other partners recognized at the same event, the Park District. Erie Crown School had donated the space that they used for the vaccine clinics in the spring, and they're probably going to use it again this fall. So they were recognizing a number of different organizations, but they particularly called out the work that we did on the hotline in the spring. We answered thousands of calls, which freed them up to work at the clinics and get the vaccine out. And we just 2 weeks ago started up again with the hotline. It's not quite as busy as it was in the spring, but lots of questions about, do I need a third dose? Where do I get my third dose? Do I need a booster instead? Where do I get that? I still need the first round. So we're helping to answer those calls to free them up to do flu clinics and booster clinics for this fall. So it was a very nice evening, and they were very appreciative.
We received a plaque, a very nice plaque, and it's actually when we do a tour of the third floor, you'll see it in our staff.
Excellent.
It's nice for us to be able to do this because we're an information organization, and that's our specialty. And so this is just lines up really well with what we're good at and what we're able to help out with.
And the health department is small but mighty, but the fact that they've been able to vaccinate at such a high rate in the community is wonderful, and I'm glad we could be part of that effort and do what we do best to help them.
It's great.
Excellent. Well done, everyone.
Yeah. And I think it was a great use of being able to find, work for our employees and also being able to really pivot the way that we are, giving information out to the community in a way that we needed it at that time. So it's
That's a
wonderful.
good
Thank
point,
you.
yeah. Everyone in the world needed to be flexible over the past 18 months, right, or 19 months. So continue to do that too. As I mentioned here in the report, the welcome signs, Jean mentioned it, we're really excited. This was always part of the plan of having our new version of our welcome sign in different languages. It's just, we're being very thoughtful and kind of deliberate about like how we choose the languages, how making sure that the translations are correct. We want to treat this with the respect that it deserves, and the care that it deserves. So we're hoping that next month we'll place the order and get the signs up at both entrances. We're testing things out right now to just do a final check to see if anyone raises a concern about any of the translations or the wording. So we're excited.
Weber has that amazing
Yes.
public art
Yes.
when you
Yeah. I
walk in.
remember.
And I'm told it has 90, I think it's 90 some languages that are spoken within Skokie.
Wow.
And so it's just a joyful piece of public art when you walk in there and you see that welcome in all those languages.
Yeah.
That's Skokie.
I think
It's wonderful.
it's meaningful, especially in this community. So
Yes.
Good news. Shabnam Mahmood and Noreen Winningham both agreed to participate in the strategic planning process, and I'm sure they're smiling underneath there.
Thank you.
In all seriousness, I want to thank them for agreeing to participate. And we have a meeting scheduled for next week, and I'll be sending some instructions and just kind of, it's not quite the full core planning committee yet. We're starting with some basic discussions about what kind of goals we have for the process, what we want the process to look like, who should be involved with the process, and I'm really happy to be working with both trustees on this. So we'll keep updating the board together. Just a few notes about some things that are happening in the community coming together in Skokie and Niles Township. That'll focus on sharing experiences of disability, and that'll be March 6th through April 23rd. Amy Kuster, our Learning Experiences Manager, has really done a great job of leading the way from within the group itself, but just as a liaison from the library. So I'm excited about that theme. And the annual legislative forum and breakfast is sponsored by the chamber every year, and that'll be happening next week.
Sign me up.
Sure. Susie can, she's taking note of like all the staff and the board members who want to participate. So
Is it just in person this year? Are they also doing virtual?
Not 100%, but I believe they're trying to do it in person. I know they're trying to do it in person. I'm not sure if they have a virtual option. I'd have to check their website.
Going back to coming together.
Yes.
Is it experiences of disability? Is there a definition on our disability there, or is there,
I haven't been in all the meetings, so I hesitate to say too much, but I can find out exactly like how they're framing that.
only because just in communicating it,
Mhm.
it's hard to know. The first thing that comes up is people, you think of physical
Right.
disabilities, you think of mental disabilities, you think of, you don't think of the person who walks like my
Sure.
teenagers.
Yeah.
And, in high school, because there was a temporary injury. So I didn't know how broad the, I mean, it's not a criticism.
No, I understand. I mean, I'll have to look into that, but my assumption is that they're being as inclusive as possible, as they can be with that definition, so, yeah. I think that there'll be program guide and website and all that coming up, but I just wanted to give the board an early look at what the theme is gonna be.
Richard, do we have someone designated to attend these coming together meetings?
Yes, Amy Kuster attends all of them, and actually she has in recent years been one of the lead people to kind of organize the entire effort, so. But it's a community-wide effort. Susan Van Duzen really is the one who spearheaded this initiative, this program series years ago, and it continues to be something that is a joint effort from many different people in the community. So, yeah. And just last thing, the staff day, the staff enjoyed the staff day. We all wish it was a full day and just kind of something that we could do kind of throughout and really enjoy meeting each other and that kind of thing. But because of the restrictions and safety mitigations in place, we decided it was better to do a half day. But staff enjoyed meeting with their departments, and we had lunch together and did some fire drills. So as one does during most staff days. So.
Do you have any meetings on security?
What do you mean?
Physical security, someone who's not as rowdy or not
During staff day?
Yeah.
We've done training, and we do training outside of staff day as well on how to handle those kind of situations. And, we've done in the past. We've done kind of like similar to school environments. We've watched the training videos on like active shooter scenarios and how to respond. And our safety manager at Thelma Brooms actually continues to do ongoing safety kind of walks and tours and with our staff based on each person's work environment and their job, like where the exits are, what to do if this happens and this happens. And we also have an emergency procedure manual that all staff have access to, and they're all at the different staff service desks. So it has like instructions on where to go and what to do. So, yeah. So that's it for my report. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No questions? Okay, next is approval of the September 2021 disbursement report, the bills. Questions? Yeah.
A question on capital, 7,000 capital. Can you remind us, Hutchinson Design Group, is this just a final payment for furniture, or what is that?
No, that's Tom Hutchinson, the architect who designed the roofing project.
Oh,
So
this is his.
that's his fee, and yeah,
Gotcha.
that's the bulk of his fee.
Same section.
Yeah, I can't.
Mechanical concepts, yeah, that they paid us 100,000 back.
They do checks. We issued checks. We issued check to them, and the checks were brought back to us, and we voided them, and then issued checks to their subcontractors.
Actually, Josh Campanelli.
Sure. About that.
Good thing I'm here.
Yeah, Josh.
I don't know
can
the
say a
reason
little bit
behind
more.
it. I just
So-
know that.
Yeah.
Josh can probably
Yeah, so
explain it
what
best.
happened, they were, we received word from a couple of the subcontractors that they weren't being paid timely. So what we did is we returned the check that we had that we were holding because we needed waivers from their subcontractors. And we had joint checks issued. So they agreed on all the contract amounts, and Mechanical Concepts had to sign off, and then the subcontractors signed off so that everybody was paid. There was no liens issued or anything like that. Everybody signed their final waivers, and we were good. So that was the only way they felt comfortable getting paid. So unfortunately for that contractor, we had to do that. So probably only had to do that 3 or 4 times in my career.
And I got you.
So these checks that were returned, there were other disbursements to specific contractors that we've that are in here now?
No, it was I think, hold on, there were actual, 1, 2, 3, there was 5 or 6 contractors.
Okay,
And there had been 2 checks, I think one in July and one in September, that had been sent. And that's why there's the V after them at the very top. I voided those 2 checks.
Okay.
And then for a total of $108,000, I reissued those checks to the subcontractors.
and is that reflected in?
That's
here?
on here. That is actually Catchell and Associates. I think it's Nelson Insulation, Precision Control, Dynamic Test and Balance, Hartwick Plumbing, and then just a little to Mechanical Concepts.
Okay, that still won't. If we paid 100 to Hutchinson and 100, anyway, we don't need to approve these other checks in because they've already been approved just to different people. Is that the idea?
Yes.
So
The original ones that you had approved in the pay
pay
applications,
apps, yeah,
you had approved the pay apps, those are the 2 on the top that were voided,
Those were voted.
right.
and then reissued to the subcontractor.
So we don't need to approve reissuing to subcontractors for that same amount.
Well, by approving the
Original.
disbursement today, you're approving those, the checks that were
Okay.
to the subcontractors.
Thank you.
And, I'm sorry, you done? At 60/60, we've got 2 identical payments to advance cleaning.
That's September, and one was,
Okay, we just combine 2 months.
yes, exactly. So it just depends on how the month
Falls.
Yeah, falls, the bills.
That was my question too.
Whenever you see exact amount like that to the same vendor, it's usually a monthly bill that comes at the same time.
Other questions?
There's one, I'm trying to get to it, but there's one to a trash can vendor. And I just wondered, was that the new cans for the renovation, or was that, what's going on with the trash can?
No, most of the trash cans that we, and recycling bins that we ordered are similar to, I thought there was one in here, but,
Oh, no, I don't need to know what they are. I did not understand
why we had a separate.
that large purchase at this time.
Some of them were for
believe
the
that was-
courtyards, I
sorry?
believe. Some of them were for the courtyards.
Yeah,
I believe.
I think we just realized that we needed a few extra, and so we placed.
Yeah,
a
no,
second
no,
order, yeah.
it was just a question.
Sure.
I was like, fancy trash
No, these are heavy duty ones, so they're durable, especially the ones for outdoors.
Any other questions? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the bills?
Motion to approve the bills.
Second,
Anybody?
second,
Okay, now we have to do this individually. Michelle?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes,
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 Okay, that passes 6-0. Next is approval of the roofing project pay application.
So this is similar to how we had a regular
On page
renovation
14.
project pay app. This is a very smaller version of that, obviously, because it's one contractor. So it's page 14 and 15. This was signed off on by Tom Hutchinson, the architect on the project.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the roofing pay application?
motion to approve the roofing application?
Second?
second,
Okay, again, it's money, so all in favor, Michelle?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. Next is the consent agenda. Any questions on any part of the consent agenda? That begins on 17. What percent of our programs are done in person versus virtual? I know it should be on here, but I don't see it.
Yeah, you can see it in the program. Oh, wait.
I think we went to every other
Yes,
month,
right,
so
that's
it
right.
aligns with our newsletter cycle. So that would be next month.
Next month.
Yeah,
You'll have
that's why we
2
don't
months
have
of
it.
stats.
But I will say, we're starting to, I mean, we have been doing more programs in person, but when things changed in early August, end of July with the mask mandate and with the concerns about the Delta variant at the time, you know, we scaled back some, but thought we would be able to do more in the fall, but we're mixing them in. Actually, Colleen is, you know, one of our program staff, and you would know, but we're doing the story times in person a little bit more. We're trying to make use of the outdoor spaces for some programs like the Together Time programs, and but a lot of our program continues to be online.
We've had a couple of computer classes here, so
Yeah.
we're mixing it in.
Yeah. We're doing a lot of passive programming, you know, kind of like not one-off programs, but just ongoing daily experiences. You know, that in this the studio, which is open every day, the boombox, which is open every day, the teen room, the lab. So we're finding ways to connect with people in person in those rooms. But yeah, we're all looking forward to the day when we can do more in-person programming for sure.
I see that where the print, you combine the print with the ebook, I'm looking at the adult. It's almost back to what it was pre-COVID. And actually the youth is above where it was pre-COVID, but the gate count is way, way down.
Yeah, I mean, we're not nowhere close to our full gate count based on the numbers that we have for COVID.
Any other questions on the consent agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that passes 6-0. Next is approval of the acoustical remediation for first floor workroom.
So here, as I mentioned, after the renovation was completed, we received feedback from some of the staff in the first floor workroom that there was more noise traveling through the offices than we had anticipated and wanted. So we asked our architect to work with Sheldon Knott and our acoustical consultant Threshold to examine, analyze what was happening, and they determined that there were some things that during the construction that needed to be addressed that weren't addressed during construction, so that would be done at no additional cost to us. But then there was a recommendation by the architect and the consultant to take on a little bit more work to augment the soffit wall between the skylights and the workroom. If you know the west side, the skylights that go along the entire west side of the end of the building. So that is right above all those offices there. So their recommendation is that we take on this additional work at a cost of $14,874, and that should address the noise concerns that we have in those office spaces. The money is there in our renovation account because we ended the project with money in the account. They'd spent down our contingencies, so normally this would have been a change order during the project because of the amount, but since we technically closed out the project financially, I thought it would be best to bring it to the board for separate approval.
I have a question about it only in the sense that there was work that should have been done that was not done. And I'm not sure how you're scheduling. From my perspective, I'd like to see the work that was supposed to have been done, and then we can see what impact that has, if any. I mean, I was reading through it, they're saying that after all the noise testing, et cetera, that they get that, but it just seems odd to start a new construction project before we get work that's owed us done.
That's what you're saying. Yeah, I guess we're just trying to be I would say that we're trying to be proactive and just kind of go above and beyond just to ensure that the noise levels and there are at where we want them, you know. And Josh, I don't know if you want to
I
add
was gonna say,
anything
I could chime in. So a couple of the deficiencies that they talked about, for instance, there's some pipes that run through there. There's a fire protection pipe that runs all the way through. So the contractor thought they were doing a good job and tried to tape very neatly around that, with the same tape that they taped the drywall, whereas it should have been acoustical caulk. So I think what they feel the big hole in the acoustic issue down there is the panels that we'll be putting on the wall. The drywall is letting it through, and this panel's going to solve that. These little ancillary things aren't good either, but it's not like that's where the bulk of the the sound is coming through. So I think it was more or less tidy those things up, and then this panel that we're going to put on is supposed to take care of most of them.
I get that.
Okay.
I just, from my perspective, I guess I'm coming at it, probably I shouldn't be, from a personal aspect. You mix the work. When somebody needs to do something to correct something for me, and then I bring in somebody and we're doing all this stuff at the same time, then after the fact, I have no way, how do we go back and say, well, I did that caulking, they must have done something when they put the panel. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think so, yeah.
And that's the only reason I bring up the timing, so that we can make sure that one thing is completely done correctly before the next thing is done. But it doesn't have to be 8 years from now. It could just.
I understand what you're saying, Marion. I understand. I think part of it, from my understanding, is also that, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when we had talked about this, that I don't know if it was you or Andrew explained that by doing the recommended additional work at the same time as addressing the work that needed to be done during construction, we would be able to do it most in a way that's least disruptive to the staff. We wouldn't have to go in and do the work, ask people to leave their offices, have a good idea that we're probably going to have to go back in anyway, and then kind of disrupt this work again. And is that right, Josh? That this is going to be all done at the same time?
That's correct. It'll
right?
all be done at the same.
Yeah, and if it was a really large amount, I mean, I would probably agree with what you're saying and just kind of maybe take it step by step. But really, in the grand scheme of things, 14,000 for this size of a project and this large of a workroom is not, in my mind, a cost that.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable with that. I just wanted to bring it up.
No, it's a good point. I think that just to say a little bit more about this from my perspective, I guess I always had in mind that there would be things like this that may come up after, you know, a 15-month project, you know, and so it's not surprising to see, you know, like the feedback once we're working in the spaces to discover, oh, we need this to be that much better, you know, in terms of acoustic control, you know, so.
Cool. Any other comments or questions?
How much money will be left over from that extra money that we did not spend after taking out?
I don't have it off my top of my head, but do you remember?
I do, 104,000.
Okay,
After this
This,
expenditure.
I'm almost sure that when I saw this, I took it off. Yes, I'm almost sure that I did. Because it was like, yeah, it was more than it. I think it's 104.
thank you.
But I can go upstairs and email it or let Richard know and he can contact you.
No, I think that's a large enough amount to say that, you know, any incidentals that occur
Right.
after, you know, moving forward, that there's still a lot of cushion room, things like that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve the acoustical remediation contract for a total of $14,874.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
Yes,
okay, that passes 6-0. Next, an update on the insurance plans.
So, as you, I think my memo says it all here, but if you have any questions about what I presented in the memo, I'm happy to answer. The bottom line is that due to the factors, mostly because of the claims that we had last year in the pool, in our Limerick pool, the insurance premiums for most of our medical plans and dental plans will go up in 2022. I just wanted to make sure that the board understood and was reminded of the fact that the library does offer multiple plans, different types of coverage, and that we, you know, provide, we carry the burden, the majority of the burden of the premium costs for the employees, between 65 to 90%, depending on which plan we're talking about. So,
do we have a sense of what the quantified number is on this increase?
for the library, the additional
Yes.
cost for the library,
Yes.
we think it might be around 65,000. Sorry.
62.
$62,000, but that's a rough estimate because we need to wait until people actually go through open enrollment, choose their plans. Some people might change plans.
Sure.
So we need to wait until after open enrollment, we'll have a solid number there.
Okay.
Okay, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, typically in the past, when we've had an increase like this in insurance, we made some type of an adjustment to the split between the library and the employee. And I don't want to get into that tonight because that's going to be a subject when we bring the lawyer in next month. So I can hold your questions until on that point, until next month, and we will completely discuss it at that time.
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else? We don't have to prove anything.
No, it's just, I wanted to just keep the board updated on, this is obviously on our major benefit, you know, to staff outside of retirement benefit, the pension plan, that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that the board understood that there will be an increased cost from the library's portion as well next year. We'll factor that into the operating budget. I'm not concerned about the operating budget not being able to absorb it. We'll figure out a way to work the operating budget to absorb it, but I do wanted to alert the board to what was happening.
Okay, next is the quarterly investment update.
Yeah, same thing here. We're just providing the quarterly update. You can see the balances there. I do want to point out, and Blythe really prepares this memo, honestly, and she noted here, after discussion with me, that the final liquidating IMET distribution was received. We don't expect to receive additional funds from IMET. We have a very small balance of $572 in the IMET reserve fund. Blythe and I would like to close out this account, honestly. It's a small amount, it's not gaining interest. We primarily left it open in order to receive distributions and make sure that we were in the loop if any announcements were made and that we were still a client of IMET. But if we're not planning to invest further in IMET at this point, then Blythe and I would like to.
Well, let me ask you first, what percentage of our loss was recovered?
Blythe had said, I believe.
I don't have it with me. I have it upstairs. If you'd like.
Approximately.
I can pull it up just one second.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
We recovered about almost 60%.
And how much was unrecovered? Roughly
About in dollar amount, about
Yeah.
45,000.
45,000. Okay. I know there was, we talked about the possibility of additional litigation against, I forget the name of the group, but the person who brought the perpetrator to IMET and for some kind of a negligence claim. Is there any talk of doing something like that among the other IMET people who have lost substantially more than us?
Not that I've heard of. Not that I heard of.
Okay, so as far as we're concerned, this is it. That's all we're gonna get.
That's the indication that we've received, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna eat the $45,000 loss.
Essentially.
Okay. And there's no reason, I thought, and I also thought that the reason we kept this little account open was in case there was this outside possibility of future litigation. And you're telling me that's really gone. We're not gonna
Can
carry
we
the
check with
load.
our lawyers on this?
Well, we're not gonna carry the load in any event,
Yeah, I get that,
okay?
but I'm agreeing with you. We signed those extensions because they were legal,
Yeah,
potential legal issues. And I'm not saying we should carry the load, but given this is, if we close it, we lose some legal rights here. I'd rather just run it past we have a new set of lawyers. I'd rather run it past them
Yeah,
first.
we can do that. And there's no rush.
Right, there's
Yeah.
$500
It came up
isn't-
because we're, yeah.
the interest is insignificant, but before we lose
Yeah.
those, right, can we run it past our new?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that we have a conversation with Julie and.
are we keeping the old lawyer in connection with this, or? This is
No,
something-
because
no,
that
we're
was,
going to the
that
new one.
was
Okay.
just a matter of
Following.
extending the
what was going on.
tolling agreement year to year.
Right.
And our current lawyer can do that as well.
Richard,
Okay.
the current extension agreement, when does that go till?
I believe that we do it annually, so I think it always, we did it, I can't remember the last time we did it, probably in December of last year or something, and so it's always like for the full year. It might have been January.
So
If we
we're saying
needed
we're
to-
going to be signing another one? So I would think you would keep the account open if that's the case.
Well, no, I wasn't saying that, I was, and I don't know, Gene, that's what you were suggesting.
No, I was saying check with, I assume if we're closing the account, we're not signing another.
Yeah, that would be my
So I'm saying
assumption
before
too,
we
is that
walk
we're.
away, let's
Exactly.
just make sure they're clear.
So let me ask though, why would we choose not to sign the extension agreement? What's the
That's-
downside of signing the extension agreement?
The downside, say that one more time.
What is there any downside to extending, once again, that agreement?
Well, my understanding is that if we have no plans to participate in any kind of legal action related to this, then, and there's no indication that there's action taken by others that we would want to join, then there's really no point of having an extension of the tolling agreement. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I would have to ask our attorney on this to Jean's point, so I can check in on that.
I mean, there's a lot of, to me, there's a lot of unanswered questions because the other parties that are also parties to this extension agreement, how and when do we as a group communicate? So how do we know that they're not having similar questions and maybe people will want to pursue it? I don't know. I think it warrants some kind of, I think, conversation or some kind of follow-up on that.
I'll check with our lawyers and see. I mean, I could be mistaken, but my assumption is that if there were things in that were happening, that because we are part of this, that there would be a requirement to let us know and give us information about that, which is why we were signing the tolling agreement, which and
Right.
yeah, so this has been, I think, how many years has this
Been a long time, and
2013.
we're holding out on the remote possibility that other parties take the lead and further litigation. I'm sure if they did take the lead, they would anticipate or expect us to participate in the cost of that litigation.
Right.
And I don't know for $45,000 if it's worth just throwing good money after bad. That's how I would look at it. You may want to have those conversations if no one has to date have indicate any inclination to continue further on with litigation. I would say end the matter because we just don't want to be spending money.
Also, Mark, what's the statute of limitations on this matter?
Well,
It's
the
from
statute of
2013.
limitations has long since run. That's why you have the tolling of the statute of limitations, which extends the statute of limitations and allows us to bring suit if we so choose. But we cannot, I don't think, for this amount of money, we can't be the lead or expect to expend any kind of money because it's, to me, collecting this money would be very speculative. And I don't know that it's worth spending any more money on this.
I think a tremendous amount of effort has been made to collect, even up to this point, the distribution that we receive, and not just for us, but for all of the people that were part of this.
And the collection of the money was against the perpetrator of the fraud.
Right.
This is going against another third party who the allegation would be was negligent in the way he handled the relationship with the perpetrator. And that's a hard case to prove.
I will check with our attorneys, make sure that we have a clear explanation of where we stand with all of this and present that to the board next month, and then the board can decide if it feels okay moving forward or. Again, I want to emphasize that there's no urgency here. I mean, the soonest we would have to make any kind of decision on whether to stay the course or pull out is when the tolling agreement is, back in place. So. All right.
Okay, we don't have to do anything about
No, it's just for information.
Okay, next is.
One more thing, sorry, Mark. I want to note here that if you recall, during the summer, we had a conversation about not making our typical transfer from our operational fund into the reserve fund. So really, when you look at the current balance of the reserve fund today, keep in mind that Blythe and I think that we can actually make a transfer from our general operating fund into our reserve fund to boost that number a bit, that balance, especially considering our strong tax collection, property tax collections up to this point this fall. So something to keep in mind, and if the board does want to take action on that, you can bring that as an agenda item, an action item at the next meeting and give you all the figures and everything. It's really up to the board.
Okay, next, the discussion of the upcoming capital improvement projects.
So, I'm not gonna read the entire thing here, but I was asked last month to provide a little bit more detailed look and prioritized list of what we might want to take on over the next couple of years. And I provided that on page 46. So hopefully that makes sense there. I tried to divide it into a year, and then within the year, it's prioritized by what I think is most important. And then on top of that, my idea of like where at this point, this could change, but where the money would come from, whether it's from the general operating fund or the reserve fund. And then just a few notes there as well. So,
This is very helpful, Richard. Thank you.
yeah, sure, of course.
So for the remainder of this year,
Mhm.
you've got two additional projects that we haven't really dealt with. We have dealt with, but one we haven't dealt with, the masonry repair.
That is in the works. We're planning that right now. So.
Okay, and how about the third one?
No, we
Petty
haven't.
flooring.
We haven't done any planning on that yet. That's just something that was in the building review that I think might make sense for us to take on. Honestly, right now when we're not having programs in the petty, so it'll be less disruptive to programming. Than if we took it on like next year or the year after when we're back to full program.
What's the issue there, Richard, with
We
petty flooring?
haven't done anything in the petty outside of adding a lift on the stage to make it more accessible. And so for a long time, it hasn't been worked on in terms of the flooring, but the carpeting needs to be redone. The chairs are kind of our full program chairs in the MR. Those are in the petty, so they're not really theater chairs. If we wanted to do something nicer there, we could. We haven't installed a hearing loop system that we have in this room and all the other program rooms in the petty, so I'd like to do that to make it more accessible, especially for the petty where we have a lot of performances and that kind of thing. And then the lighting in the petty, I think, is a concern that we might want to assess, whether we want to do a little bit of work with the lighting to make improvements there. Again, we haven't gone through the process of assessing and planning, so I don't know all the specifics that would, come into play.
So this dollar amount says just petty flooring and hearing loop. It doesn't talk about the chairs and other things.
Right.
Are those included in that number, or
No,
that would be a separate
no.
analysis?
I don't believe SMC included that in the building.
Okay.
This is just, again, I want to emphasize that these are not hard, this is not a planned project at this point.
I hear what you're saying, though, about while we're still not at full utilization, it's worthwhile discussing these items.
I think, if the board wants to do it now, we could go upstairs to walk around the third floor. As I mentioned in my notes there, the third floor is kind of probably out on this list the biggest question mark for me. And that really is based on, I think there are two approaches that we can take. We can continue to live with what we have for the most part and just do a simple, straightforward kind of replacement of carpeting and maybe switch out some lights, and kind of try to keep the cost to a minimum. Or we can kind of design something and work with an architect and figure out what is it that we really want to do for our staff spaces and what do we think is going to benefit staff, years down the line, as opposed to kind of putting a Band-Aid approach of putting the new carpet down or whatever. So I think that my preference would be the latter, like to do a designed process, but not necessarily leading to a full-blown renovation. Like I wouldn't be able to recommend that because we haven't gone through a master planning process. So I would like to go through a master planning process with our architect to have more information, basically, so that.
How much is that gonna cost?
So based on a projected total possible cost of a project being 2 million.
No, what's just the architect?
Yeah, so based on it's $36,000 for his fees, Andrew Berman's fees for a master planning phase. So that's the fee that he gave me.
So what's the total fee that would be credited against?
So that really depends on what we take on, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so whatever, if we were to then move forward with that plan,
Right.
that 36,000 comes back.
It would be applied to the rest of the fees, his total fees of what we would pay him for the rest of the conceptual, like design phase, and then the construction document, preparation of the construction documents and the project administration, so like it would all be very similar to the renovation project. The master plan was just a portion of his work for the project. So,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have
It's
to.
not really accredited, it's just.
No, well, it would.
Because it's the same work, you paid it $36,000.
We already did that, yeah, we would have paid him for that phase, so we wouldn't have to pay him
Okay.
again for that phase.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was reading credit incorrectly.
Sure. So, and I want to say here also that the board doesn't have to make a decision about any of this tonight. This is kind of, for me, just presenting information and asking for guidance at some point, from the board on, do you want to go through a master planning process? Do you prefer to hold off on making a decision? Do you know that you want to go with just kind of the former option of kind of doing a straightforward carpet replacement and some lighting changes?
Richard, I think you're right that we have to see the third floor.
But we can do that. We can walk upstairs, and this part of the board meeting isn't going to be live streamed, but if we had guests, we would invite them to join us, because it's technical. We're technically still in open session. We're just moving.
Okay.
And Colleen, are you staying here
Yeah.
just in case someone comes and you can?
Richard, can I just suggest, can we finish the rails report, and then we can?
Sure. Well, let's do two things. Discussion of the board vacancy first. At my request, Richard has gone ahead and begun the advertising for the new trustee to replace the one who's resigned. And so far we've gotten 2, right?
3.
Susie, how many?
3. Okay, and how long are you gonna keep that open?
It's really up to the board.
Okay, well, how many did we have last time, Gene? 10, 12?
Yeah, I think that's right.
That
Yeah, because
sounds
we
right.
didn't interview them all. We
No,
made
you and
some
I
cuts.
argued a subset,
Right.
and then referred 3 to the full committee.
Well, I like to get as many as we can, so I keep
Exactly.
it open for a while.
Mark, I agree. We just posted this on October 4th, I believe.
Yeah, so I don't want to take it down.
So I think we should wait.
And maybe at our next meeting, we can see what we've got and make a decision as to what we're going to do. What we do, what Gene and I have done is when we get all the applications in, we will review them first. The first time we interviewed everybody, I think we had 2 spots open, right? And then the next time, instead of doing that, we made a cut. And there was only 1 spot open. There were some we just thought, we're not going to hire, or we're not going to appoint under any circumstances. And so we interviewed the rest, and it still turned out to be a substantial number of people, 8 or 9, as I recall. And Gene wants to bow out on this one.
Well, said differently. For you guys, when each of you came on, Mark and I have done the preliminary interviews, and just brought to the full board, and that's how each of you got them, except for Noreen, where we didn't have a preliminary round, you went right to the final round. But my feeling is Mark and I have been doing this so long together. It'd be, in terms of diversity, fresh view, I'd be happy to step back and let somebody else have participation. I'd still be involved in the full round, but I feel like it would be good that it's not the two old white guys doing all the interviewing every time and narrowing it down, just in terms of trying to practice what we've been preaching. So hence, I am willing to graciously step aside if
Although
one of you
the
is.
ones we recommended, I see are
have
all
all
female.
We've done a really
Somehow.
good job.
We've recommended all female.
Yeah, so I think we've done a fine job, but I'm just saying in terms of optics, maybe it's time that it's not just the two of us doing the initial interview, but that would mean one of you would have to, or two of you would have to agree to work with Mark, or we could both step back and.
Yeah, that's
That's
the
a little
hard
much.
part.
No, with the history, we figured it, one of us has the history, but that might be good to add somebody else instead of the two of us doing
Okay,
it.
so I
Again.
don't think you gotta make a decision tonight. Think about it over the next month. At the next meeting, I'm gonna ask you, somebody to step forward.
And that means, if it's 8 interviews, that's 8 hours. of
Yeah, it's,
Stuff roughly.
it can't be a
We're not
painful
selling
week.
it.
You're really selling it.
I'm telling you, but I'm telling you the way it is. Because
Being
you
honest.
sit there and,
Well, didn't you start, when you had a large number of applicants, didn't you do like a?
Yeah, we did
initial-
preliminary, right.
Like
I mean,
15
Mark said,
minutes.
if
It
we
wasn't
had a
8
dozen
hours.
applicants, we narrowed it down to 8, interviewed the 8.
but the
And then-
eight,
Oh.
And then
you
brought
You got a full
3
interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
to the board who chose one.
and then we would discuss after each
I
one.
mean, it was different, each of you were in different rounds, different processes, so, but we've always been the ones doing the preliminary stuff, so I just felt like time to give somebody else some experience or representations.
Yeah, it's a full day in the boardroom, basically.
Yeah, or it's half days, it's a couple evenings, I mean, it's,
It was like 3 evenings in a row.
You can schedule it for what works. for
yeah,
you.
right, it's around our schedule, so it's flexible, but you still gotta.
I'm not working. There's a few people here that are. So, I mean, count on it, it's a serious time commitment. So
That's also important.
it's also very important because it's a person you're gonna be working with. For
Yes, there's
years to
self-interest
come.
involved.
What's that?
I said there's self-interest and
Yeah.
we did a fine job.
So how does this interact with the strategic planning?
We usually interview in the evening. I was,
And
yes,
then you strategic plan all day?
yeah. So plan all day and then interview all night.
Now, we've done this both in person and virtually, so
Yeah.
we could just
we
do it
have.
virtually, which might make it easier.
I would, I
preliminary.
prefer talking to somebody, and I think you miss something when you see a little TV screen, like that. I think talking to the person and see their reaction, their body movements and so on, I think that's important.
I would say, the strategic planning process, I don't see really ramping up until a little later, like maybe starting in December, January, March. So, if, assuming that we have, we close the deadline, the deadline is by the next meeting, we have a good group of candidates. If the interviewing happens in November or early November or mid-November, then it's possible that we could kind of be done for the most part in November.
And when is Maggie's spot up for real?
April 2023.
Okay, so it'd be 2 years.
Essentially, well, more like a year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half, okay.
If the earliest, on the timeline that you're describing, the earliest someone would be appointed would be,
Probably
possibly
December, right?
in December, and then that might be their first meeting, and then
So about a year and a half.
a year and a half.
Okay, we can discuss that the next.
Yeah.
Next, the rails report. Is there anything you want to add orally to that fine written report?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Any questions or comments on rails? Hearing none, thank you. And before we go upstairs, do we have any comments from the trustees?
I always have a comment, but I think I'm gonna wait.
Okay. Well, we have to come back here and close out the meeting.
Just a general comment, obviously, we're, the roofing project. I'll be, as we all are very interested to hear when we're making significant progress on that. Because, we talked about that a lot with all the parties, right? That concerned about the weather, concerned about not being able to continue. So, we're getting a lot of rain, we're heading into the cold time. So I'll be very interested to hear updates as you hear them.
Absolutely, I'll continue to provide updates, and I just want to assure you, I'm on the roofing project mentally every day. We get an update from the project manager about what they're doing each day. I was happy that last week and this week they managed to make some significant progress. So Tom Hutchinson and his staff have been out doing field observation reports regularly. So
Okay.
that's all this is in motion. It's just hoping for very good weather in the rest of October and November, and then should be okay. There's a variable there that we can't control.
Right.
Could I have a quick question?
Yes, of course.
How are the positions that are open in the library, are you getting applications?
That's a great question. I'm sure many of you have heard, it's hard for many employers these days to find a good pool of applicants for open positions. And we've had some struggles with, positions that we've never had struggles with, like even just like part-time custodian or, and it's not because the pay is not, at the level it needs to be, because we're paying higher than many other libraries, so it's, it's not that, it's just, that's what the world looks like right now for most employers. So it's starting to get a little better. So in the past, I would say week or two, I've noticed that I talked about our HR manager every week, about progress we're making. So we've hired a few people in the past couple of weeks that will be starting soon, and some key positions. I mentioned this to Mark on the phone, but Tim Murphy, our building services manager, unfortunately is taking another position closer to his home at the end of the month. So he's been here for about 4 years, most of my time as a director. So it's sad to see him go, but he's left the department and the library in better shape than it was before, and so thankful for the time that he has given to us. And
Are we thinking of hiring a new boss, so to speak? Or, yeah,
but it's already posted.
it's already posted. Okay, so we're not promoting from within, we're gonna hire somebody.
Well, we usually post, and then if there are internal candidates who are
Okay, then you
interested, they
consider
have to
them all
go.
together.
They have to go through the hiring process.
Okay.
So that means we've got 3 positions that you're trying to fill right now?
We have more than 3 actually.
Okay.
We have
Right now.
maybe about 5 or so.
Because look, there were the 2 that are leaving. I guess I wasn't looking at the right page. There are 2 that are leaving, one in December, one this month, I guess.
Oh yeah, and these transitions and hiring departures, sometimes this is not in this.
Okay.
So this is just kind of every month, any new information we have, we present it. So there might be people who are leaving who told us like 3 months ago that they're going to retire, and then they'll show up. Like, for instance, our full-time reference librarian, who's retiring in December, but he's already given.
That's what I was
Yeah.
reading, so I thought those were the
Yeah,
opening.
and that
And
was
those other transitions had filled openings,
right.
so.
It's always happening in 2 different ways here. So we have 6 positions currently open. Well, it's really 5, to be honest, because one is a part-time maintenance position, but we double posted, and we put it as a custodian position and one level higher as a maintenance worker position, just to see which one we can fill the quickest, but it's really, that's one position.
Where are these postings going up?
We have them on our website, on Rails, which is actually probably the best place to put library jobs, because that's where everyone looks in the area for library jobs. We use a software called Bamboo HR, and that when we post on Bamboo HR, it automatically gets fed to Indeed.com.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about Indeed.
Yep.
So it does go there.
We post on Indeed and other websites. For many of our professional level positions, we are also, we started posting on some of the national library boards, like all the ethnic caucuses like of ALA. So there's BCALA and Apollo, which is Asian Pacific American Library Association, Reformo. So like there are different boards that we basically post to, just to try to diversify our pool as best as we can. But it's a challenge for everyone right now, I can tell you. I mean, across the board, I haven't heard any organization, library or otherwise, say that they haven't experienced some of this.
We filled Tiffany's position for social media.
We just hired someone today. She'll start in November. The breaking news shop now. Yeah.
In terms of the social media stuff and our programming that's virtual, is that recorded so that it could be seen after the fact?
A lot of our programs are on YouTube.
So it's the YouTube channel people should look at
Yes.
to see if that, because it doesn't say in the description of the event.
Mhm.
So it would be helpful, I mean, on the one hand, I know people don't want to say it because then who bothers
Right.
registering, but by the same token, if you register and you can't do it, or you're thinking about, there's a conflict, it would be good to know that you can still access that
And I
program.
think we actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've registered for programs at the library where last minute I couldn't attend, and I got an email saying, if you want to see the recording, here it is, or whatever.
Yeah.
We do that sometimes.
We used to record a lot more in the past, and we have like so to speak, like a stash of programs, for example, story times, because this is kind of like evergreen content. So whenever someone can make it, sometimes story times just repeat, so that they can just go and watch it there. But we do mention, usually we mention in the description whenever we record a program, just because patrons need to know that, to turn off their cameras if they don't want to, appear on camera, because when they speak, Zoom automatically picks them and shows them on the screen. So
Okay.
yeah, we do have a stash of videos
Is the one tonight being recorded?
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not our meeting. There's a presentation that started at 7 that I really wanted to.
I think it's hybrid, so I don't know if it's recorded.
The color of law and reversing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, any other comments for the trustees? Okay, well, let's go through the third floor, and then when we're done, we'll just come back here and adjourn.
We can leave our things